The land that I'm standing on right now, bordering the Skagit River, is what's called riparian. That means that it borders a river, and it's very important habitat for salmon. The problem is, over the years, we've lost a lot of the vegetation and tree cover for salmon due to all kinds of human development, from housing to farming.
2004, the Department of Ecology determined that the tributaries in the Skagit were too warm. There's some very successful programs out there that show that when they do plant these trees along these tributaries, that it does in fact cool down the stream, so the salmon have a better chance of surviving. And the Skagit is the only river in the lower 48 that has every species of wild salmon still spawning in its tributaries. It produces 1/3 of the wild salmon into the Puget Sound.
The Swinomish tribe is one leading the charge to have the state legislature and the Department of Ecology enforce riparian buffers that would be 100 to 200 feet wide. The problem is many of these river tributaries run through agricultural land.
So 150-foot buffers for us, if you have a 40-acre field that has a stream going through it, that would basically wipe out that entire 40-acre field. And to have local food, we need to have farms that are in the area that are sustainable and are able to run their farms in the most efficient ways possible. And having regulation like this or land grabs like this is going to make farmers less competitive to our peers outside of the Skagit Valley.
The government will pay farmers for the land that they hand over for fish habitat, but some farmers say in the long run it's not going to make up for all the lost production. The Swinomish tribe says there are already plenty of farmers who have joined the program, and they'd like to see more in the future. On the Skagit River, I'm Alison Morrow, King 5 News.